some maple bourbon glazed shark with some bacon fried potatoes, green beans and onions, and we're gonna bake up a loaf of our sourdough bread. So I have this, I shaped this up last night and I've had it proofing overnight. We've got a couple good bubbles here, so I'm gonna flip it out onto my thing and we're gonna slowly pull it back. There we go. You never know if I put enough flour in the basket or not. There we go. Okay, and now we're gonna give ours a nice big score. This will be its nice expansion score. And then we're gonna do a little wheat leaf here. And I'm gonna see if I could do a slightly different one. We're gonna do a really feathery one, which is almost the same thing, except it has a lot more little lines on it instead of my big ones. Teeny little. There we go. Okay, we're gonna pop this guy in our Dutch oven. He's been preheating in there for about 45 minutes to an hour at 500 degrees. We'll slide this guy in here. Just be careful not to touch it because it is nice and hot. There we go. We're gonna put our lid on and we're going to bake this at 500 degrees for 20 minutes, then at 450 for 20 minutes. So the 500 with the lid on is gonna give it its nice rise, seal in its moisture, give it that first kind of crust, the blonde, pale blonde one. And then the second bake with the lid off is gonna give you that golden color. Okay, so I'm gonna set my timer for 20 minutes. Got that going. Now let's get our bacon frying up for our potatoes. And then we're gonna prep our maple glaze so that can start to simmer while we are cooking dinner. So I'm actually gonna start getting my butter melted because the glaze needs to cook for just about 20 minutes, which is kind of perfect timing with everything. So since we have a good amount of shark here, we are going to put in about 4 tablespoons of butter for this. And this is a black tip shark loin, so I'm actually gonna cut them into fillets when I get to them. I was super excited because they had them in our grocery store this week. And so I was like, oh, change it up. I typically stick with a lot of, cod, tilapia, salmon. But I was like, let's change it up. Let's have some fun here. And my kids, I don't think they've ever I've cooked them shark before, so I think they're pretty excited. Okay, we've got our butter going. Once we get a little bit of our butter, we're gonna add in some garlic. A little hippo on here. We'll have onion powder, some garlic salt, maple syrup, bourbon, and brown sugar, and ginger paste. Did I get my ginger paste out? We'll grab it when we need it. But we first want to start with a little bit of our butter melted, and then we'll add our garlic in. I'm going to, had it on higher, but now I'm going to bring it down low because, again, I don't want my garlic to burn, but I do want it to kind of cook up a little bit in this butter right now. So we're going to kind of cook it over a medium-low heat. Here we go. Fresh new one. I feel like I've gone through so many of these. Between using garlic and all sorts of things, we go through a good amount. We're going to put it in a nice kind of big heaping, around a tablespoon. This would be about like 5 or 6 cloves of fresh garlic minced up, which fresh garlic would be great. But since we're using some strong flavors such as the bourbon and the maple syrup and the brown sugar, it kind of gets lost in the sauce. So garlic it is. So we've got that heating over there. I'm going to grab my ginger out of my fridge, unless I forgot to grab my ginger paste. You could also use dried ginger. Fresh ginger, I'm going to use about a teaspoon. Dried ginger, I'd use a little bit less, about a half a teaspoon, because again, it's got a little bit of a kick. Time for me to replace this almost. So a teaspoon of ginger paste, or if you have fresh ginger, you can peel it and mince it up, and you'll want about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, depending. Always taste your ginger. Some ginger is super spicy, and some is more mellow. Okay, we're gonna let that kind of simmer in here, and this is gonna be for our maple bourbon sauce. We're gonna add in our brown sugar. We need about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, a little bit more, you know, just like kind of a smidge. A little more than a smidge, 2 to 3 tablespoons. I'm putting mine a little bit more on the sweet side because, again, shark has a kind of sweet undertone to it, so I want it a little bit of sweetness to go with it. We're gonna use about a 1/3 cup of maple syrup. You wanna use real maple syrup, not some Mrs. Buttersworth. That won't work in this. And we need about a 1/3 cup. My pan has a little measuring cup indicator on the side, which is very, very handy when I'm making sauces. So a 1/3 cup of maple syrup. And then for the bourbon part, just any bourbon that you have, you want, again, about a 1/4 of a cup. You don't need much, but the alcohol will all cook out of it and it will make this lovely glaze. So we're gonna let this simmer, and then we'll throw in garlic, salt, and onion powder here in just a little bit. But again, we want to simmer this over nice kind of medium-low heat for the next 20 or so minutes. And this is what we're gonna drizzle over our shark. So it's going to be absolutely delicious and full of flavor. Okay. And get my spoon rest. Once I have a nice kind of simmer on it, I'm going to put the onion powder and the garlic salt in and a little bit of paprika. But let's get our bacon cooking up for our fried potatoes, and we can start slicing those up. I'm not going to use all of my this pound of bacon, just a couple, you know. We'll cut it this way. That way I can take out, I'm going to say I'm going to use about 2/3 of a pound, or 1/3 of a pound of bacon for our potatoes. This is going to give them a really great flavor. And I don't know why, but I feel like bacon fried potatoes and maple, like bourbon glaze shark just go well together. I feel like bacon and maple works because, you know, got them together with breakfast. So I was kind of decide what to make with the shark today. And I was, you know, we just did rice last night, but if I had thought ahead, I was like, ooh, kind of like a Caribbean themed shark dish would have been nice, but I'll save that for another time. But I was like, this one will be more fall-y with the maple in it. We're going to turn our heat on to about a 6, and then we'll start taking that apart. But let me get my hand a quick wash.
You have a question? What does shark taste like?
So it is actually a very mild fish that has just a really like slightly sweet flavor to it, but it's not very powerful. It is a high protein, lower fat fish, so it can be kind of flaky too, and nice and like a meteor, not, you know, you can marinate it. It can get tough if you overcook it, so you just have to be careful with that. But it is a very mild flavored fish, very plain, but nice and flaky too. And a hint of sweetness, which is what goes really well with, you know, this like the marinade and kind of enhances it. We've got our bacon. I would say maybe like a slightly, very mildly sweet cod or a white fish, but it's not too strong. Okay, now that we've made a good simmer on our glaze back here, I'm going to turn it down just a little bit more because I don't want it to turn to candy. We're going to add in our onion powder. We want about a tablespoon. And then we're going to add in our garlic salt. And we want about a teaspoon. There we go. We'll give this a good mix. And you can see we've got it simmering. We've got our brown sugar in here, our garlic and our ginger with our maple syrup. And I think it's going to be delicious. Okay. Ha. We're going to have to do a little more ring-a-roo. frying my potatoes in my small pan. No worries, because adding a little bacon flavor to the fish will taste great. I think so. Maple, bacon works together.
You have a question? Is there any focaccia left?
There is a small little bit of focaccia that I saved from lunch today that I think I'm going to make in croutons for either a salad or a soup. There you go. So we'll have a little bacon grease with our shark when we fry it up, but this is for our potatoes here. But at lunch we made these delicious kind of roast beef and cheddar melts. I added a little bit of sun-dried tomato pesto to mine to make it like a, cheddar and beef romanesco sandwich, but delicious with our butternut squash soup. I actually brought some over to my parents and they agreed it was delicious. Here we go. Most of the time they eat my food like it's the next day or whatnot, but they got this one. They eat a very early dinner, so they got it and it was still warm in the containers for them, so they had it pretty fresh. I'm gonna turn this down again, super low, because again, I don't want it to bubble up too much that it turns into a nice candy on here. Let's get our potatoes sliced up here. Oh, that's a little hippo. And we're gonna dice these up into nice kind of small dice so that when we go to cook them up, they'll get nice and tender pretty quick. I'm using some Yukon Gold potatoes because I felt like the slightly waxier texture will actually go well with this, and I feel like their Yukon Golds are a slightly sweeter potato than a russet. They just have a slightly different texture and flavor, and I thought they paired a little bit better with a maple glaze. I want to keep saying salmon, but with our shark, which we'll fillet here in a little bit. The way I'm going to cook up my shark is we're going to make the glaze, but I'm going to save that towards the end. We are actually going to season. I'm going to cut it into fillets. We're going to season it, and then we'll kind of sear it on both sides, and then when it's cooked, we'll drizzle it with our glaze on there. That way, you'll get a lot of that glaze, and you don't have to worry about it burning. There we go. So get these kind of cubed up, and then we'll also prep up our green beans, which we're going to put in the oven for the last 10 minutes of the sourdough when it's baking at 450. Give our glaze again a little stir here. And I'm going to just get a little taste. See how it is? It's really delicious. You've got the sweet and the savory, which is I love a good umami, like that nice sweet and savory. I know if I had thought ahead, we could also do this with rice, add a little bit of soy sauce in there, and then you could have this nice little Asian dish as well. Okay, let's get these last guys up. We're gonna do a bacon fried potato, but I'm gonna add in some fresh thyme as one of the seasonings. I feel like the flavors, or not thyme, oregano, because my garden has a whole bunch of it, and I just love it, and I feel like it's gonna work well with our shark as well. Let's get our bacon. Give it a toss. I'm gonna cook it, turn it down to about a medium, and I'm gonna cook it until it's just about crispy, not all the way, because if you cook it all the way, then it gets really hard and crunchy by the time your potatoes are done. So we're gonna cook it to where it's still chewy, but will crisp up the more as we cook it. But you can't just throw your potatoes in with raw bacon or bacon that's just slightly cooked, because it's not gonna get enough direct heat for it to completely crisp up.
Judy sent you a gift.
Oh, thank you, we appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna slide. We're gonna do a little ring-a-roll here. And we're gonna get our fish fillets kind of cut up. Let me check my time before I dive in here. Good, with some wet hands, or get my hands all dirty. So I've got 2 shark loin fillets, which are pretty meaty fish. So I'm gonna cut them into, kind of single serve fillets for everyone. This is about 2.5 pounds of fish. But it is a very meaty fish. It reminds me very much of working with like tuna almost, or swordfish. You can see it's pretty. It has some nice veining on it. It's considered a high protein, low fat fish, so must be healthy.
Is there a high fat fish?
No, low fat. High protein, low fat.
I know, I said, is there a high fat fish?
Salmon. Salmon is a high fat.
I should probably cut it out.
No. It's a good, healthy fat. So, if my kids like it this time, I've decided that next time I'm doing it, I'm gonna fry it, cut it into bites and fry it, and do it with a Caribbean meal, with some nice kind of like Caribbean rice and some sweet flavors. I feel like that would be delicious too. Okay, our bacon is just about at the nice kind of almost to crispy, but not quite there. So we're gonna add in our potatoes.
You've had several questions. Where did you get the shark?
I got it from Publix, which is a local grocery store here, not a bougie, fancy place. I very rarely get the chance to go to bougie places. If I can find it locally at my local grocery store, not Whole Foods or something like that, and they just had it. It was on sale too for like $12.99 a pound. I was looking at that, and then right next to it, it had like grouper for $25.99 a pound, and I'm like, we're doing shark. So I was pretty excited on here, because I've had shark in a restaurant, but I've never really cooked with it before. But, I mean, it looks simple enough like some other fish, and I know it has a nice kind of sweet flavor to it, so I was like, challenge accepted. Okay. Get our potatoes in here. We're gonna coat them up all with that bacon grease on here. That's gonna give it some really nice flavors. So I wanna make sure all my potatoes get coated with that, because potatoes are like little sponges. And if you don't coat them all, only the bottom ones will get the best crisp on it, because they'll soak up all the bacon grease. Break some of those big potatoes apart.
Yeah, I agree with the chat. The chat's saying Publix is a little bougie, and I'm like, yeah, Kroger is baseline.
No, I've been told that Publix is a little bougie. Okay, Publix is like 5 miles away from my house. Kroger is like 8 miles away. I have to drive by Publix to get to a Kroger. I'm gonna add in about, a teaspoon of olive oil just to help out with a little bit of fat for the potatoes. And I'm just gonna say, Publix has really wide aisles. So I know that's like a crazy thing to judge it, but if you can push your cart down the aisle and another person can push their cart down the aisle and you can have somebody walk right between you, that to me is nice. Then you're not trying to go around like, the little old man who doesn't know what he's buying, but he's there trying to find something, I like it. It is bougie, but it's closer to my house, so I say convenience wins. Although I have to say, there is a Kroger here that is even bougier than my Publix, and it's a super ritzy Kroger. It has a Starbucks and everything. Okay, let's give this a nice little stir. It's starting to thicken up into its nice little glaze, which is what you want, but look at this, beautiful. Right around the edges, you've kind of got that nice little gelling to it. Beautiful. And again, and this is our maple bourbon glaze. We used about 1/4 cup of butter, around 2 to 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1/3 cup of maple syrup, 1/4 cup of bourbon, onion powder, garlic, salt, deliciousness all around. For my potatoes here, I'm gonna kind of turn it up to I'm gonna do a 5. We're gonna put our lid on it so that it can get steam, cook them, make them a little tender. But towards the end, we will take the lid off and we will cook off all that extra moisture to make them nice and crispy. Let's season up our fish, but let me check because again, got 2 minutes. I can season these up in 2 minutes. I just don't want to be like in the fish and then it goes off. Okay, we're gonna keep our seasoning really simple on these because we are going to be putting our glaze on them. So we're gonna do onion powder. This is gonna help give them a nice kind of golden color when they sear up. Really good sprinkle over them. There we go. And then I'm gonna flip, once I'm done, I'm gonna also flip them over and do the other side. We're gonna do some paprika. This will give a nice color and a nice little savory flavor to it. But it's not a very overpowering and it's not spicy. And a little garlic salt. And then we're going to flip all these fillets over after I give a nice little, I'm going to keep my one hand, this will be my clean hand. So I'm going to just pat it in. And I made sure that before I put the fillets out, I did pat them dry. Because like when you pat them dry, they're going to have a much better sear on them. Okay, we'll flip these guys over. We're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Onion powder. And this will give a nice little, slightly, that caramelized onion flavor to a nice little sweetness to it, without being too strong. And we've got our paprika. And if you wanted to, you could totally mix all of these in a bowl and then rub it over, but I'm just gonna do it on here because it's easier. Garlic salt. Okay, and then let me go in with my hand and kind of really spread it around, pat it around, so it kind of coats it. And then I'm actually gonna kind of flip the sides here.
You have a question. Why garlic salt instead of garlic powder?
Because I find garlic powder is gritty and I love garlic salt. You get kind of a smoother garlic flavor onto it than you do with the garlic powder. Okay, let's go take the lid off our sourdough here. Get my hands washed out. So it's been baking for 20 minutes with the lid on. Now we're going to take it out, bring the temperature down to 450, and then we'll bake for 20 minutes with the lid on. So here is our beautiful pop there. See, gorgeous. We're going to pop this back in the oven. Lid off.
You have a question about garlic salt. Do you use it in place of salt?
Yes, I use it in place of salt. It's not quite as salty as regular salt when you go things, so you can use a little bit more, but it has that nice, just wonderful flavor to it. I switched over to using garlic salt in almost all of my cooking, and everyone always tells me that my vegetables are the best. So we're going to bake this at 450, and then I set my timer for 20 minutes. But I also feel like so many, like when I grew up as a kid, we didn't have bougie vegetables with dinner. We had frozen mixed vegetables, or frozen green beans, or frozen peas, or frozen corn. Sometimes you had corn on the cob, or mashed potatoes, or baked potatoes. But we didn't have bougie stuff. I remember the first bougie vegetable I had was sauteed spinach with Parmesan cheese. And then after that, once I started cooking, I started making all my vegetables bougie, and the kids eat them more. I eat them more. I would like to say my husband eats them more, but only some of them.
Question, do you have a recipe for your sourdough posted?
I do. I have a recipe for it, as well as so the recipe card for everyone, as well as a video on how you can make it yourself. From all the steps, because it takes about a day to get your sourdough proofed and ready. And I also have videos on how you can make your own starter from scratch as well. Let's give our sauce a little stir here. It's looking good. Taste it a little. Delicious. Okay, let's because I'm going to have to do my fish off in bits, but I'm not going to do them yet because these aren't going to take very long to cook, but I'll have them ready in just a second. Put them over here. I'm gonna chop up my onions, get my green beans ready to pop into the oven.
What type of potatoes?
We are going to have, these are bacon fried potatoes. They are Yukon Golds. So they're sliced up. We're gonna kind of make them nice and steam tender them right now. And then the final cooking part, we'll take the lid off and, you know, kind of cook off all of that extra liquid to be nice and crispy. But it's allows them to get nice and tender first. But right now, we're going to slice up some onions and then have our green beans. We're gonna toss them with a little bit of olive oil, garlic, salt, and black pepper. And these are gonna throw these in the oven for the last 10 minutes of our sourdough cooking just underneath, so that we have a nice kind of delicious green beans with our dinner tonight as well. Okay. For my green beans, for my onions, I'm gonna cut them nice and long, kind of skinny pieces so that they match the green beans. I always like my onions to kind of match the shape with what they're eating, like what you're eating them with. Okay. So let me grab my baking sheet here. We're going to toss our onions on here, kind of break them apart. And I like to have, when I do green beans, a lot of onions. It's better the more onions, because the onions are one of my favorite parts. I could eat just the onions too.
This is a good question. Do you practice dishes before you record them live?
No. This is the first time I've cooked shark. I've cooked lots of other fish, so I was like, sure, I know how it tastes like. No, I don't practice, but I've been cooking for a long time. And so I do make mistakes plenty of times. Everything is live, everything happens, everyone sees. I just hope that my cool, calm composure and my cooking skills will get me through, you know? But I'm waiting for the day that it's gonna be an epic fail. It's gonna happen, and I think that's just gonna be hilarious. I've been cooking since I was 13 years old, so that is coming up on like 25 years or so, almost. I'm still 37, I'm not 38 yet. But I mean like cooking family dinners at 13 years old. So I've been cooking for a while. I love it, I have a passion for it, and I fine-tuned my skills over the years. Dad was not always a great cook. But you know what, as long as you don't give up, I have messed up plenty of things, but practice makes perfect. Well, you can't really be perfect at anything, but practice makes you get better, and you learn from your mistakes. So I put in about, I want to say like maybe a tablespoon of olive oil. We're going to give a generous shake of black pepper. The black pepper is amazing. I like the pre-ground black pepper versus freshly ground, because freshly ground has a bit more heat, and I can't take it as much. So that one's a little bit duller. You can use a little bit more. We're going to do some onion powder to go with our onions, I know, but it's delicious. And then garlic salt. A nice little shake over, and it'll be delicious. I'm going to start heating up my oil over here, and then we'll toss this, and we'll get ready to start cooking up our lid, because, yeah, we got some good timing. I'm going to put for our, I want to keep saying there's salmon, for our shark. I'm going to put about maybe a tablespoon and a half of oil in here. I just want a nice kind of thin coating to cover my whole pan, and since I am using a big 12-inch skillet here, I want to make sure I have a good amount. Let's give our maple bourbon sauce a good stir here. Again, nice low heat. You don't want to have a boil on it or you'll turn it to candy. Get our potatoes. Beautiful. So as you can see, we're getting this nice crispy sear on it. The trick with making sure you have really good crispy potatoes is you don't play with them. You just let them sit and fry over like a medium heat, and then just flip them every couple minutes. And then spread them back out. And then I always season them towards the end so that they don't get, those spices don't burn on the bottom of my pan. Okay, we're gonna go in here, and the best way to really coat these is just to toss them with your hand. So I'm gonna go in and coat them up.
A question, will your kids eat shark?
Well, this is, they've had it in a restaurant before, but none of them said they remembered what it tasted like. So I'm hoping they'll like it. I'm feeling like with the flavors that were going on and what I know that they'll like it. My kids like almost all fish, so I'm not too worried about it. I don't think any of them have been picky about fish. A lot of times I just call fish salmon and label it. This is white salmon, this is pink salmon, this is funny salmon, you know what I mean? Just do a lot of different ones for it to go in there. Okay, we're almost to heat there. Let's go pop these in the oven so they can toast up on there. I do have that oven is at 450. If I wasn't going to be doing them with sourdough, I'd probably do around a 425, so a little bit lower, but I'm going to be doing this underneath the sourdough, and we'll do it for about 10 or so minutes. Here we go. And that, so they can cook up and get a nice kind of tender, but I don't want them mushy, so I want them to be a nice vibrant green. I have my timer already set, and it should get off at around the same time. Okay, let's get our fish going. Since I have a large family, I'm going to have to do my fish in batches. I'm not going to be able to do them all at one time. We did have a little bit of bacon grease in here as well as our olive oil, so that should give it a nice flavor. I was deciding whether I wanted to fillet them on the sides or up and down, but I think we're going to do them on this. And I'm going to turn it down. I have it nice and hot, but I'm going to cook them over about a 5, so right smack dab in the middle. Trying to get all of my even thickness. We're just going to do 4 at a time since I have 8 fillets here. And again, this is about 2.5 pounds of fish, which is a good amount. Okay, let's prep up our herbs and whatnot to go into our potatoes. We're gonna throw in I've got green onions and fresh oregano. We're gonna mince it up, and then we're gonna use onion powder, black pepper, garlic, salt, and a little bit of paprika, season them up. I like to try to keep as many of the flavors kind of similar between all the dishes, so you don't have a lot of conflicting ones. So the only new really addition to this that is different is the oregano, but it's such a lovely spice. Here. Now you could also use some dried oregano if you want. I would say with dried, put in about 1.5 teaspoons. Get all these little tasty leaves off. There we go. And then I'm going to mince it up so that I can get more of that flavor out. And so my kids don't complain that I put leaves in their food. I remember the other day, I think it was Teddy, I was explaining to him what spices were. And I was like, oh, they're leaves that you can eat. You know, they have flavor in it. And I was trying to remind him about when we went on our cruise, and I think we were in Belize maybe. And the trees growing around were the same trees that bay leaves come from. And I was like, oh, remember the trees with the monkeys? Because we saw monkeys up in them. I was like, those, when you dry them out, have a lot of flavor and they can add spices. And I remember when I told him about that, he tried to bring me every single leaf outside. And he's like, is this a spice? Can we eat this? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm sure we probably could eat it. It wouldn't taste very good. I mean, I went through all of our maple leaves, oak leaves. But then I told him about our maple tree. And that's a new project I'm going to do. We're going to put a tap in one of our sugar maples and see if we can get some maple syrup out of there. Because I told him we can get syrup from that tree. Okay, let's get a nice little, beautiful. Now I'm going to put and sprinkle our oregano on here. And again, just a very simple, slight kind of mince up on it. I'm going to put the oregano in first, but I'm going to hold off on some of my other spices because oregano has a little bit, has a little bit of a water content into it. So it will take longer before it can crisp off and burn. But I'm going to let it sit there for just a second. Take a peek and see how these are cooking up. Beautiful.
You have a question? Any of the kids like to help cook?
They all like to help cook. Sometimes their help is not as helpful. They love the little ones, actually all of them, they all love cracking eggs. but they are all terrible at it. It is like so many eggshells in there, and I'm just like, ah. I will say, my thing is I like cooking with my children when I'm not trying to get a meal out. When it's more of a, let's cook something together. Cooking with my children when I have to get a meal out is so, and they're always like, let me do that. And I'm like, well, I could do it so much faster. But they all do. I said my 3 younger ones, well, Jack is always into everything, but Teddy, Evie, and Torrin, they're very interested in cooking. Teddy loves to help me cook. He actually made a sourdough all on his own, and it turned out amazing. I actually made a little video of it because it was so cute on there. We're gonna flip these over. We got these nice kind of golden sear on them. Look at that, beautiful. And we're gonna cook these up, again, right over a medium temperature, right at around 5 as we cook these up. And move this guy a little bit in. Let those. Get our oregano stirred in here. And I'm gonna leave my lid off for the remainder of my potatoes so that I can kind of cook off some of the steam. But the nice thing about using a Yukon potato is since they're waxier, they're gonna hold their shape a little bit better.
You have a question? How do you know when the shark fillets are done?
Since I've cut them like this, you can see when they're no longer pink on the side, they'll come all the way through, they'll done. You'll also know that they'll be firm when you touch them. Since these are kind of thick, I might end up flaying on both sides, which actually will probably give a really delicious kind of crisp on it there. But we'll see. I'll see how they cook up through this since they are a little bit thicker ones. But touch, when they're firm, they're done, as well as when you don't see the pink or like the very pale pink anymore. When it turns white, you'll know that they're ready. Prep our green onions to throw into our potatoes. We're gonna add in our onion powder here in just a second, black pepper, garlic salt, and a little bit of paprika. These nice up. I'm gonna add my green onions at the very end. Don't add them too soon because green onions will lose their flavor and texture. They'll get mushy if you cook them too long. We're gonna do a nice little sprinkle over of the onion powder. This is gonna give a really great savory, kind of caramelized onion flavor to it. I'm using about a tablespoon, but that's also gonna help soak up some of that extra moisture, and it will just make it delicious. We're gonna do a little bit of paprika, like a half a teaspoon. I'm gonna say about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic salt. You don't need quite as much salt because we do have that bacon that's gonna add a little bit of flavor as well. And then a little black pepper. I'm gonna let these spices steam up and hydrate, which is going to allow them to blend better with our food. Beautiful. These are cooking up well, so I'm gonna flip them over on each side. There we go. But you can see they're almost all the way cooked through and they are looking fabulous. I'm gonna grab a little bit of a plate here so I can put these on and we can glaze them as well. And the reason why, you could always make your glaze, marinate, and cook them off. But the problem is when you cook off a sauce that has a sugar content in it and you're searing your fish, you risk the turning that sauce into a caramel because of that sugar content or crystallizing it. This is going to allow us to have all of that great flavor, but a perfectly seared off fish as well. Looking good. Okay, let's toss our potatoes and then these will be about ready to flip. So we're now going to just mix all of these spices in and kind of coat our potatoes up. This is going to allow them to get really crispy pretty quickly because it's going to suck up all that extra moisture and it leaves all the flavors on the potatoes. It won't get stuck or burnt to the bottom of the pan. Here we go. And you can see that paprika adds just a nice kind of orangish color to the potatoes, which just makes them look so pretty. And when we toss in our green onions at the end, they'll be perfect. Okay, beautiful. These are just about done. I can tell they're almost all completely like firmed up around. You do want to be careful that you don't overcook sharp, because it is a lower fat fish. Overcooking it can cause it to get dry, and you don't want that. So I like kind of doing this sear. It kind of keeps all the liquid in it, and then we'll put a glaze on top of that, which is again going to sear all those like liquids into it. So let me grab a brush here, because we're going to get ready to brush ours over in just a second. We've got about 2 minutes left on our sourdough over there. We got this. I'm gonna taste it one more time. It's really good. It's got enough sweetness that it's like, you definitely, but it's not like super sweet. It's got a nice savory sweetness to it, which is just lovely. Beautiful. Look at these perfect kind of golden sears on it. So this is our black tip shark that we kind of just did a really simple seasoning with garlic, onion powder, garlic, salt, and black pepper. I'm going to glaze it here in just a second, but I'm going to put my next round in so it can start to cook. And then we're going to glaze it with our delicious, steal out a little bit of that, maple bourbon brown sugar glaze. So we're going to get our first, going to go over it and just really kind of drizzle and coat it up. I'm going to glaze it up now, and then again we'll glaze it, we'll drizzle a little bit of our sauce right when we're serving it, but this is going to help seal in all of that flavor. Here we go.
What's in the glaze?
Oh, our glaze is, this is our maple bourbon brown sugar glaze. We used about a 1/4 cup of butter, maple syrup, brown sugar, and all sorts of deliciousness. Okay guys, let's go grab our green beans out, and then our sourdough should be ready. We've got 50 seconds left. Beautiful. Let me grab my things, but it looks like you're pretty perfect. So I'm gonna, let's see. Let's grab our sourdough first, and then we'll grab our green beans second. Pop that up. I realize I've got my salmon on my plate here. And then I'm gonna go grab my green beans. So this is our beautiful sourdough. I decided to do the feather kind of look versus the traditional wire set wheat wreath design on it. We're gonna take our sourdough out here pretty quickly, because we don't want it to burn on the bottom. And this Dutch oven can stay nice and hot for a long time. So once you take it out, just pull it out. And see how we have this perfect golden brown crust? This is our gorgeous sourdough, our nice expansion score, and then of course our beautiful wheat wreath design. And it's our traditional loaf. I do have that recipe card available for everyone, as well as videos on how you can make your own starter. And
Not wheat leaf.
Wheat leaf, not wheat leaf. You're right, feather leaf or feather. I don't know. I normally always do a wheat leaf, but this is a feather, which is just the same concept, except you do like a little line down and you make lots of little lines. It's cute. I was looking up different scoring things, being like, oh, I should really change up my game, and I needed a little inspiration. And I was like, simple, not crazy difficult, simple. I'm always a person.
I want you to do Nordic runes for bread.
Oh, Nordic runes. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Here are our green beans. You can see they've got this nice, vibrant green color to them with And our onions are nice and kind of translucent. You toss them up. They've got the black pepper, onion powder, and garlic salt, but they're nice. You can see when I pick them up how they're going to be nice and tender, but still have a firmness to them. I always call them my tender crisp, so not mushy. Who wants mushy ones? Okay, our potatoes here are just about ready for us to add in our green onions, because we are getting down to our final countdown. Okay, we've got our green onions in here. I'm just gonna toss those in for the last bit. Adds a really nice, bright, fresh flavor of onion to it. Turn off my heat here. Beautiful. We're gonna sear them off on their side. And this is gonna give you that nice pan-seared flavor all the way around. Most of the time with fish, it's not thick enough or not rich enough that you can do it. You have to just do top and bottom and it's cooked all the way through. With shark being a kind of a lower fat, higher protein one, it cooks up, it takes a little bit longer, but it allows us to get this great sear without overcooking it. This is allowing us to evenly cook all the way around versus if we cook it all the way through, your bottom and your top will get overcooked. So I cut them in the way so that I could sear them off on one side. It's kind of like when I do my really thick cut pork chops. Looking good. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to turn this down, but since we already have one dish ready, I'm going to plate up.
You've had quite a few requests. If tomorrow you can let everyone know if the kids like the shark.
Yes, I will definitely do that. I'm actually really excited for them to try it. I told them all about it, and Teddy first asked me, he was like, hammerhead shark? Great white shark? And I was like, no, you can't eat those. There's only like 2 types of sharks you can actually eat. But I'm very interested for him to try it because he's very fascinated whenever we have shrimp. He's just very fascinated with how they look in the tails because he's all into animals. He just loves animals. Let me grab a spoon so we can drizzle a little bit of our glaze at the very end as well. They're just about ready too. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to turn this down really low and let's start with our potatoes here. So we have our bacon fried potatoes. We used Yukon Gold, hickory smoked bacon, green onions, onion powder, paprika, and just delicious. Fried them slow with a little bit of steaming there. Our green beans and caramelized onions that we roasted up in the oven with black peppers, onion powders, add nice little things. But the star of our dinner tonight is our maple bourbon glazed shark that we first seared off with onion powder, garlic salt, and black pepper. And now we're going to drizzle. We basted it with some of our maple glaze, but now we're going to drizzle a little bit of our maple glaze over it because it has so much flavor to have in every single bite. And of course, we will serve it up with a nice slice of our sourdough bread. Again, look at this beautiful golden crust, our nice peaks, and our cute design. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to our link, search for what we made. So we've got maple bourbon glazed shark, fried potatoes, beans, and sourdough bread, and you can always make those along with us again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets. I've got my cutting boards, I've got my hex-clad pans, my knives, all the different things I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out in case you're interested. But again, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.